their how their students have learned during a period or a unit, and also it helps to clear the expectations that the professors have about the class and the knowledge that our students ha- have.
Great, great, great. Yeah, and also you can say something that we have, for example, on display now on the screen. No, the rubric is a rule. No, is authoritative. Cuando dice authoritative means that it's something that students, for example, can't change. No, if the teacher is given a rubric, right? If a student is given a rubric, also you can't change that. No, so porque es algo impuesto, es authoritative, no? Right. And basically what the rubric is an explanation, okay, of what, like you said, no, what is expected of the students, what are the criteria that are going to be taken into account, and also for example, the numbers, no, that each question is going to get. I mean, the grades or the marks that students are going to get. And finally, a rubric is something that teachers are going to use to give feedback, and also maybe to plan some changes in their classes or something, no? So eso yendo un poco más allá, no, of the count. Yeah, as you can see here in the slide, no, the rubric, I want you to read this section here. It says the rubric is the creation of the people who made it. No, so it's not something that just came out of nowhere, and that is the ultimate reality, right? Or is the absolute reality. So maybe if the rubric has a mistake, you might expect some miscalculations or some misinterpretations in the results, ¿no? Entonces es sujeto de ser perfeccionado, or also if it has mistakes, it's going to cause you some mistakes, some difficulties, no? Yeah, so that's what the author means by that. Also, a rubric is a series of choices, no? You understand that, and it's used to identify what is really most important, no? With the rubric, we specify exactly what it is that we want our students to do, no more and no less than that. And also it says that it's a record of negotiated compromise, no? Negotiated compromise. Well, of course, you have to work on this with your students, no? I mean, in your classes, show them, discuss. And so maybe they can have a say here before you elaborate the rubric. But once the rubric is elaborated and printed, and it's presented in the test or in the exam, you can't change that, no? Por eso decimos que es authoritative rule. Great, yeah. What about the second slide, the next slide, no? Purpose. Can anybody comment on the purposes of oh, well, let's discuss this first. The types of, no, let's go back to this one, the types of rubric, because it's what we are going to discuss in the next 2 pages of the book, no? Types of rubric. Yeah, who can tell me about this? What are these 2 types of rubrics? Anybody, please? Maybe Armando Carwa. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Prof. Maybe could
Thank
you
you. Thank you
repeat
very much.
a question, please?
Yeah, yes. On the screen you have these two types of rubrics, no? Holistic and analytic. What can you tell us about them?
Okay. Well, as we can see in holistic, we have a kind of rubric, a kind of general rubric, because here, so the how can I say, uh, los parámetros, o sea, las descripciones, the
Parameters, yes, the
descriptions,
parameters.
description of a holistic rubric is, for example, here we can see usually used for program assessment. So we are talking
Programs.
about a general program, no a
Yes,
specific program, or not
exactly.
a specific skill or a specific subject.
It's all it's all
Uh,
together.
aha. Um, and at the end, we can see general overall look at group. As I said before, these kind of rubrics are more general. These are
Yes.
focused on try to assess or try to get information in a general way. But and on in the other hand, we have the analytic rubric, and it is more detailed because
Yes.
we this kind of rubric is more specific.
Yes.
For example, here we don't have for a program assessment. Here we have for a course level. So it is more specific for a level in specific.
Exactly.
And here we don't have an overall. Here we have a look at each of the relevant parts.
Uh-huh.
And at the end, we can see that this kind of rubric provides descriptive feedback to students. But here, the feedback to students maybe is one by one or maybe in pairs, but not in a big group, in a general group,
Exactly. Exactly.
in for example, for a class in total as an holistic rubric.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
that's
Okay.
my understanding about.
Okay, great. No, no. Great. It's good. It's that's pretty much what it is, no? If you contrast and compare what you see here in this slide with the explanations of the speaker and what you have in the book on page 153, 54, yeah, it's pretty much the same, no? Yeah. Holistic is also known as a global, no? Global rating scales. It's more appropriate when you are working on a full program, no? For example, students that are preparing for FCE or CAE, no, para el examen CAE or B2 se llama ahora, no? B2 first certificate, I don't know what. And so because it measures, no, it's multidimensional, no, it's not based on arithmetic grade, no, it's different. It has an overall look at the group, no, so you can test 100 people the same day, and then you use these marking procedures, no, muchas veces it is with a computer, or the exam is computerized, you know, computer based, and so yeah, and so it's not really appropriate for classroom based, you know, assessments. It's usually for larger programs like FCE, TESOL, etc. Great. Por eso se llama global rating scale, no? That's the other name, global. Right. And now analytic is more appropriate and more commonly used for classes, for classroom-based assessments, no? For a course in secondary, in schools. So here you want to assess each component, but at different times, no? All through the school year. all through the school year. You look at each of the relevant parts, no? So, for example, you do unit 1, and then you assess on the most important things of unit 1, and then you do unit 2, and then you do a progress test, a review, etc. Review test, etc. The idea, the objective, the ultimate objective is to provide descriptive feedback to students, no? Descriptive feedback to students in formative, some kind of formative assessment, no? So to speak. Great, and if you can look at more information, and actually that's what we are going to do right after this analysis of the video. On page 154, 55, you have examples in the book, no? One for overall production, como el típico Common European Framework assessment, no? That's on page 54. And then you have one example of the typical rating scale for a classroom, no? And here you have an example in writing, I think. Well, we're going to look at that later. Great. What about the next slide? Abby, can you show us what the next slide is? Now, the purpose of rubric. What can you say about the purpose of rubric? Okay. Anybody, please? The purpose for rubrics.
This could be understood as, you know, in the class level and in the overall program or course level. For example, a course level assessment could be, you know, a writing activity or, you know, a speaking activity. You know, you use a rubric to grade those ones. And in the case of program level assessment could be, you know, like a final project, something like that, something that compilates the content of what has been seen during the course.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, the author makes a reference also to the previous slide, no? Where we have course level, que sería more like the analytic rating scale, no? Which is used in classes, in the regular courses that we have in schools, no? With classroom-based assessments. So it's like you say, is assignment-based, individual or group development, and one of the purposes is to support course outcome, no? And for program level, like for example, if you teach in preparation for TOEFL exam, and then the purpose, and then we can see that they are embedded in courses. They use randomly selected artifacts across the program and supports the program outcome, no? So it has to do with the two types of rating scales, no? Global or holistic, and then analytic. Great. Our next slide, please. Course level assessment, assignment based. Yeah. Course level assessment. What is that? The purpose of assessment, no? The purpose of the assessment. Yeah. What can you tell? What can you tell us about this? What is the purpose of the assessment? Yeah. When we talk about the purpose of the assessment, no? Because the last slide, no, that's okay. Abby, can we go back to the previous? Yeah, exactly. Because this slide is about the purpose of the assessment. La anterior was about the purposes for global rating scale versus analytic. But is different. Now this topic now showing on the screen is different. No, this is about the purpose of assessments in general. No? Purpose of the assessment. So who wants to talk about this, please? How about Diego Monar? Are you there? Can you hear me? Diego, can you hear me? Eduardo de la Cruz? Eduardo, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof.
Thank you. Thank
Can you hear me?
Eduardo. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So what do you remember when the speaker mentions assessment of learning and then assessment for learning? What do you remember?
Well, Professor, honestly, I didn't watch the video because I'm using my cell phone, and watching videos is not
Yeah, it's
it's
a little
not
more
a good
difficult.
idea. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, and
sorry.
what do you? Yeah, no, it's okay. But what do you think is
Mhm.
assessment of learning? What do you think it means? Because
Well, the assessment of learning, I think it is like more specific. I mean, this assessment mm, is about to uh, determine what student is able to do. I mean, it is about collecting information on what students can do or cannot do. And the assessment for learning, I think it is this assessment is used in order to provide some feedback on the teaching process. I mean, this information that you collect from the students' performance, you can use in order to improve your teaching methodology, approach, and all that.
yeah, okay. Well, you're right about the second one. The second one, yes. Assessment for learning refers to assessments that happen, for example, after the learning has occurred. Not like you say, for example, you give them an assessment, and then you can use that for feedback. And so you determine, no, this if students have actually learned something. If not, you can use it for reinforcement or feedback, like you said. I'm going to use a quote that is in this other book, Assessment in the Language Classroom, that says assessment of learning, assessments of learning. Of learning. No? Assessment of learning are used to make statements about a student's learning status at a particular time point in time. No, so so to make it clear, assessment for learning is used as evidence of the learning process, no? To measure where students are in their learning process and where they need to go and how to best get there. That's assessment for learning. And assessment of learning is when you want to determine what if learning has occurred in class, no? To determine whether the learning has happened or not, right? And there's also a third type of assessment that some authors call it assessment as learning. No, that's another approach. There is of course some some discussion, some debate on this. No? Assessment as learning occurs when students reflect on the progress they've made, and they reflect and monitor their progress, no, to inform their future learning goals. So, as one of the many reasons for assessing, we have also assessment as learning, no? As learning. And so, well, as you can see, examples here, assessment of learning. For example, the typical is the quiz, the test, or a project. No, you can give them a project. Assessment for learning, no, in class, when you're doing activities. For example, you tell them 1 minute paper on esto que le llaman el pop quiz, no? Let's make a pop quiz, or you're gonna use these sentences, no, and write a short description. You give them 5 minutes, you collect the papers, no, and so because you're testing their learning at that moment, no? At that particular in that particular respect. Great. Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? The next one is design steps, no? What can you tell us about design steps? Somebody, please. What are these steps? What does each step consist of? Anybody? This.
These steps follow a logical order before to create the rubric in order to know what is the objective of the rubric that we are creating. For example, we need to understand that what we are going to assess with this rubric. For example, here we have the identify the outcome. So this rubric needs to provide us information about the outcome that comes from the students. Any rubric needs to show us what is the level of the knowledge in a student. We need this rubric need to show to the student or students what are the criteria that we are applying in this rubric. So what are the characteristics that we are evaluating or we are assessing? Obviously, students need to know what is the grading scale because it is essential for their knowledge, because they need to know in what they fail or what they did do well. And finally, we have the share and revise.
Share and revise.
Share and revise. So I think it is the last step, because it's when we provide the final grade to our students.
And students need to
exactly.
See
students need to revise and need to know what did well and what did wrong.
What they did wrong. Yes. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. No. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what it is. No. Of course, you can at the end of the class, you can watch the video again, for more detailed description and take notes. Although the slides are pretty clear. No? And so, yes, when you want to design a test, there must be some planning before that. No, there must be some planning behind that. And of course, you need to identify the outcome. No? What it is that you want to get from preparing the test no, and the results that you expect. So you need to conceive all this idea, no? Then you need to identify the knowledge level. No, you want to be as specific as possible in determining what it is that you really want to measure. No? What type of knowledge, what specific area or aspects. For example, reading. No, if you take reading as an example, you have a reading comprehension, reading for main ideas, reading for gist, reading for different reasons. No, well, I can't think of many examples now, but you want to make sure that you want to measure only one specific knowledge level. No? Then identify the criteria. No, it's better if you classify them into similar categories. No, it's going to be easier for you to design the assessment in this way. Then identify the grading scale. No? So that's when you define what your grading scale or rating scale is going to look like. Now, what dimensions, what dimensions you're going to have, and also the different levels. Now, for example, good, excellent, no, not very good, etc. And finally, write what you're going to do with the results. Now, once you have the exams or the assessments corrected or marked, what you need to do is to share this with the students and revise and maybe check it for some maybe signs of inconsistency, discuss things, explain to students. Of course, as you get more and more practice, now the levels of complaining will be very low. Now, that's why the rubric has to be very specific, because you need to justify in front of the student why the student got a certain grade. No, so if you have a very good rubric, then students won't have a chance to complain. So those are that's about the design steps. Okay, and maybe we have 1 minute for the last slide, and then I'm going to explain your homework for Thursday. Please, can we have one breakdown type of phenomenon? So what is our next slide is
Type of knowledge.
types of knowledge, no? Types of knowledge. Yeah. So what do you remember about this? When we say factual, conceptual, procedural, that's the second step, no, in the design. No? So you need to identify what it is that you exactly want to measure. No? What knowledge of the students you really put into the test. No? O sea, qué es lo que qué habilidad o conocimiento es lo que quiero medir exactamente. For example, factual, no? If you're talking about students knowing exactly what a concept is, no? Facts, no? So basic knowledge of discipline. So I'm sure that you can think of examples where you're testing or you're assessing that the students know the facts. Se me ocurre, for example, if we're talking about a history test, no, in Spanish, in English, no? Students read, for example, students study at home the documents the teacher has given them, and then the teacher asks, for example, when did Batalla de Pichincha take place, no? And then he gives the options: 1824, 1822, 1820, and students have to choose. No? Right, and so that would be an example of factual. No? A conceptual, no? If the students know the concept, Of course, if they know the concept, then they should be able to organize, classify, because they handle the concepts very well. Procedural, no? If students can explain something, mention the steps, no? Well, you can, depending on your class, if you're teaching science, social studies, maybe you can come up with good examples of this. Attitudinal, no, when you're measuring if students have good disposition to work in groups. For example, if you're making a rubrics for a presentation, working in groups, you can put, for example, this. Now, if students are able to work in groups, if they are collaborative, if they are sociable, if they are helpful with the class, etc. Then psychomotor, if you're working with the little ones and you want to know if they can handle a particular a motor skill, no? And metacognitive, no? Also, as the author mentioned there, if they can take the knowledge that they have and transform it into something that they create. No? So in other words, if they really understand the concept, they can put it into practice, into something that they create. No, that is the metacognitive level there. Well, so these are steps in the second step in the purpose, no, in the design steps. Sorry, no? Identify the knowledge level, and these are the types of knowledge. Well, the video goes on and on with more interesting slides. Well, unfortunately, we don't have time to do all of them. I suggest that you watch the video again and take notes and stop at each slide and take notes, take photos, and try and digest the information in a more productive way, than just watching. So watch and take notes, or watch and make your own mind map is going to be more useful. Great. So I just have a couple of minutes, I think, to explain our homework. Well, first, we're going to finish this topic on Thursday, and Thursday I will give you the class work, the group work, so that you present Monday and Thursday next week. Yeah, because we need to finish this topic first. And so for homework, I want you guys to present, one example of analytic rating scale and one global rating scale that you have used maybe in your institutos or high school where you work. If you don't have experience with this, then you can choose one from the internet. And I want you to explain what I want you to present these two examples, one of global rating, one of analytic rating, and explain what it is that it's that is being measured, in each aspect, in each case. The global, remember, is for an example, is for let's call it one of these official tests, TOEFL, or si uno entra a un instituto and you want your certification from the institute or something. And the other one, analytic, is for a classroom. I'm sure that you can come up with a good example of your classes. Use one that you present, one that you have actually used in class, and tell us if it works, if it worked when you did it, if you can think of any changes and improvements for that. So present a complete analysis. Right. So in the next class, I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 students presenting their examples, and the rest you send to the website that Abby creates for you for sending your homework. And so hopefully I will have some time to look at some of them. Great. And also part of your homework is that you have to read the rest of the pages all the way through to page 163. No, hopefully in the next 2 hours on Thursday, we can finish analyzing. But it's going to help you a lot if you read the text in advance. No, so you're more than prepared when we have our session on Thursday. Okay, so that's all for tonight. I think the session is about to expire. So thank you, Avi, for hosting this
Sorry.
session.
Sorry for
Thank you,
interrupting.
everybody, for participating.
Prof.
Yes, any questions? Yes.
Yeah. So the homework is to explain the differences between the global scoring and the other was?
And analytic scoring. But presenting examples, no? Examples that you have used or that you find online.
Only one, right, Professor?
Yeah, one analytic, one global.
Okay.
And then you explain. And then on Thursday, I'll be asking a couple of students to present their examples. Yeah, and all the other examples, well, all your samples and presentations will go to the link that Avi always creates for you guys.
Okay, Prof. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'll see you on Thursday. Enjoy. Have a good night.
Thanks, Prof. You too.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
bro. Bye.
Thank you. Take it easy. I'll see you on Thursday.